All right, welcome in, Buck fans. No quarter given podcast. It is a bye-week edition leading into a week 6 edition of your 3-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming off their 26-9 victory in New Orleans for their first division win of the year on the road. I'm your host, Jason Powers, along with my man, Peter Blake. Mr. Blake.
What's going on, buddy? Creamsicle week. Of course, I'm wearing the Buck Power Creamsicle shirt that was provided with the new contract extension by none other than Jason Lyon and, of course, Paul Stewart. And yeah, 3 in a row now against the Saints going back to last year. When's the last time you've seen that happen? I don't think it's ever happened.
Well, again, a very impressive performance by the Buccaneers heading into the bye week. Again, 26-9 victory. The Bucs very balanced on offense, 33 runs, 33 passes. Mayfield plays really well, 25 of 32, 246, and 3 touchdowns. Rashad White runs for 56 yards. Keyshawn Vaughn is the second leading rusher with 9 carries. Godwin gets over 100 yards with 114. Had a little hamstring issue with Mike Evans. So, again, even more impressive that the Bucs are able to get through that game with no Mike Evans for most of that second half. Just an all-around very good performance. I thought the defense played really well, and I think the offense after the first quarter, they really played well the last 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah, and again, they wanted to be balanced, right? We talked about it. They got to have that running game, and maybe sometimes it's not pretty, but you got to have that threat of it, and you could see White from the running back position was running a lot stronger, wasn't being as patient, just hitting the hole, and you could see the result. And also, going back to, and I thought this was a play that a lot of people sort of circled, is when you need a third down key conversion and you're in the red zone, he makes somebody miss and he puts you in that situation where you can score the touchdown. That's what you want him to do, make somebody miss. He didn't necessarily do that all year long. He did it in this game.
Yeah, and you saw contributions for a bunch of different guys on the wide receiver position for the Buccaneers. Devin Tompkins with 4 catches. Trey Palmer with 2 catches and another touchdown. And to me, one of the plays of the game was the touchdown pass from Mayfield to Otten. It was a kind of a busted play, and Mayfield took a vicious hit on the play, a little dump off on kind of a middle screen kind of deal to Otten, but took a vicious hit by the Saints. Ended up scoring a touchdown there to really, what was like a 19-play drive, like 9.5, 10-minute drive that culminated with the Cade Otten 4 or 5-yard touchdown pass.
And who do you avoid? The big mouth himself from New Orleans, Cam Jordan, who was saying so many things about how the Bucs weren't going to be anything without Brady, how they're going to be in the cellar. Not so fast, my friend. And that is the difference to this offense. Let's just put it out there. Baker Mayfield not only on third down completing, 76% completion, when you need third down conversions, and he's also decisive on the run. And oh, by the way, he's got some mobility too. That helped last Sunday.
And the Buccaneers culminate their victory with a interception at the end of one Jameis Winston. I think he came in for one throw, and it turned into a interception for the Buccaneers. So a little irony there to end the game once again for Jameis Winston throws. Again, the game was over at the time, so I'm not, we're not trying to make fun of Jameis here, but the game did end on a Jameis Winston interception, basically.
It did to D. Delaney, who's played very well so far, and he needed to because Ryan Neal goes out with an injury, believe concussion protocol. So that could have been a big loss. You lose Jamel Dean before the game. You got Carlton Davis coming off an injury. Zion McCullum. Overall, the secondary, especially, and Antoine Winfield Jr. played out of his mind against the Saints.
No doubt. I thought Todd Bowles called an excellent game on defense. And obviously, we knew Derek Carr was a little compromised with the shoulder injury. You could tell he wasn't at full strength. But again, give the Bucs credit. They heated him up. They blitzed. They put pressure on him. They hit him. Sacked him a couple times. And in the defensive backfield, the back 7 played really well. They can give the linebacking core a lot of credit. They contained Alvin Kamara. Kamara did not get loose on the little outlet routes he likes to get on with Devin White, Levante David. So give those 2 guys credit for corralling Kamara. Kamara had a bunch of touches, but not a lot of yards. I think he had like 75, 80 yards for the game, but he had like 25 touches. So full credit to the Buccaneer defense for keeping him under wraps.
Absolutely, and that's the big key. And even with Devin White coming into the game, not necessarily being 100%, I thought he did a pretty good job. And again, Levante David the ageless wonder continues with the consistency to still be, in my opinion, the best linebacker on this team.
Okay. All right. So the Bucks move to 3-1, head to their bye week. Not a lot of news out of one Buck place during the bye week. Obviously, injury wise, it's probably a good week for the Bucks to be off because Evans had a hamstring. You're going to probably get Kalijah Cansey back for the Detroit game full go. We don't know what the status of Jamel Dean will be, or Ryan Neal. We would assume Neal, if it's a concussion, will probably be back this week, but we will see as the week progresses. But again, nobody likes a week 5 bye, but I think it's probably a good time for the Buccaneers to get fully healthy.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it comes at the perfect time because, like you said, Devin White's not 100%, Vita Vea's not 100%. You may get back Kalijah Cansey this week versus the Lions, which will definitely help. Jamel Dean would help. So
Diaby's been out a couple weeks. I think he's going to be back this week. So some more reinforcements at the pass rush situation. So yeah, and again, Evans will have a full 2 weeks to be ready, hopefully for the Detroit game. So again, a good. Most teams don't want to buy this early, but again, given the circumstances of the nicked up injuries and maybe the lack of depth at some spots, it's probably a good time for the Buccaneers.
And going back to Evans, I mean, he was winning the battle against Lattimore. I mean, 3 catches for 40 yards before he went out with the injury, including drawing a key pass interference call on 3rd down to give the Bucs new life.
All right, so let's take a look at the Bucs through 4 weeks before we get to Detroit. Give me a couple of guys, surprise guys that you didn't think 4 weeks ago would be contributors that are really providing a quality contribution to the 3-1 start.
I don't know if I'm surprised, but I thought, Antoine Winfield Jr., he had to have a big year, right? I mean, everybody said he was going to get a contract extension. We knew going back to his natural position, he had the opportunity to do that. He's absolutely taken full advantage of that. I think Baker Mayfield, right? I mean, I'm not surprised by it because I felt like he could have the same type of success that Geno Smith had in Seattle. But with that being said, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jason Powers, have you changed your mind about Baker Mayfield?
I never was anti-Baker. I just wanted to see him do it. I mean, I mean, again, I thought if it was even with he and Kyle Trask, I thought Trask would get an opportunity. But I think Baker was a little bit better. I don't think it was head and shoulders better, but he was better than Trask in the offseason and preseason. So I'll give him 4. I just like that he's making quick decisions. He's not holding onto the ball. It's 1-2, throw it away, or 1-2, check it down, or run. He's not holding the ball, pumping, trying to force balls into tight windows. He had the one bad interception in the Philadelphia game, but for the most part, he's done very well with the ball. Do what the offense allows you to do. Take what the defense gives you, and live to play another down if the play's not there.
And he had also an interception in this game that was costly, and even he admitted to it. And then the Bucs get a break there because your brethren, I think, missed the call. They give the Bucs a break with the Saints being on like the 1-yard line. Very next play, they fumble, and of course, it's the peanut punch from Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
One of the guys that we haven't talked about. How about Logan Hall? Right? Logan Hall giving you that presence.
Getting better. Getting a little better every week.
Yes. And Zion McCollum, with the injuries to Jamel Dean, he's had the opportunity to step up, and he's absolutely taken that next step. And that's the reason why you get excited about Jason Light's picks, especially in the 5th round. Some people say, well, when is it going to work out? You got to give these guys time to develop, and they've had that time, and it certainly seems like it's paying off for Light and crew.
I'm going to give you a guy that that we knew nothing about, that was given a start, it earned the start. He wasn't given it. He earned the starting spot. We have no idea who this guy was. Christian Izien at the nickel spot. Undrafted guy out of Rutgers. We know Rutgers has a very good history with defensive backs, things like that with the McCourty brothers and such. But nobody knew who Christian Izien was 2 months ago when training camp started. And this guy has played tremendous football through 4 weeks.
Agree. I mean, I don't know how you can disagree. I mean, once again, another Jason Light find that nobody expected anything from, but he's not playing like a rookie. He's playing like a guy that's been in the league for 5 or 10 years. It's amazing.
And let's go to the offensive side. A couple guys I want to give some love to too. Luke Gedeke hasn't been brilliant, but he's been good. He's been very serviceable at right tackle. He's not committing a bunch of penalties. He's not giving up a bunch of sacks. He's been very serviceable, and I think he's just going to be a guy that, again, year 2, getting better, getting a little stronger. He's at his natural position. I think it's a, you can have no complaints about Luke Gedeke at right tackle if you're being objective.
Absolutely, because he shut down Jordan, and it's always a great thing to shut that loudmouth down. And then, on top of it, you've got Trey Palmer, second touchdown
Yep.
of the season in this game, really stepping up. Doesn't seem like, he's too big for the spotlight. And, I would also say Tristan Wirfs. I mean, it's easy, it's low-hanging fruit, but how many people thought he was going to be able to transition over from the right side to the left side? I think he's actually better as a left tackle. In fact, Pro Football Focus right now ranks him as the #1 left tackle. So, like Winfield Jr., he's about to get paid.
That's why he'll get $25 million at the end of this year when the contract extension.
Pay the man. Show me the money. Absolutely, do it.
And it shows what a dominant left tackle can do for the rest of the offensive line. So now you can move the protection to help Cody Mauch and Gedeke a little bit if you need to. So that's something that's, when you have that dominant left tackle, you can now help other places that might need help when you're playing different defensive ends that are quality defensive ends on the other side.
Absolutely. And I tell you another guy that was kind of quiet at the beginning, that would be Chris Godwin. But when Evans goes out, who shows up? The old Chris Godwin. It certainly seems like he has that explosive nature back. He's getting separation. He's physical when it comes to blocking. He's a veteran leader on this team. He needed to step up against the Saints, and he did.
What'd you think of the move by the Bucs? It looked like Keyshawn Vaughn kind of was moved back into that #2 running back spot. We didn't see Sean Tucker. Vaughn had 8 or 9 carries in that New Orleans game. What do you think that's going to kind of be a rotating back and forth depending on the matchup, or what do you think? How do you think that #2 running back spot's going to trickle out?
Play the hot hand. If he doesn't fumble the ball, if he doesn't put the ball on the ground, if he's running strong at the point of attack, as we continue to talk about, and he's continuing to get positive yardage because you want to stay out of those situations where it's a long third down, you play the hot hand. And if Vaughn has that opportunity to be the second running back, so be it. If he's not going to play up to snuff, then you go back to Sean Tucker or whoever else is on this roster. Of course, Chase Edmonds being hurt. So both of these running backs are going to have that opportunity. So to answer your question, whomever is playing better at the time gets the start at #2.
And then go to special teams. Again, Camarda's been doing a great job. Special teams player of the month in September. McLaughlin more just keeps making kicks. That's what you like to see. Has been very super steady. I don't think he's missed a kick all year. So again, just what you need to have if you're going to be a division kind of contender here as we move forward. And if you look at that division, obviously the Bucs were off last week, but you had Atlanta win a close game. New Orleans went up and won. Carolina's been a disaster at 0-5. So it's going to be a 3-team horse race with the Bucs, Falcons, and Saints.
Certainly seems like it, although I think the Falcons are a fraud. I told you that. Desmond Ridder played well versus the Texans, but it's the Texans. I got to see more consistency out of this unproven quarterback. And then with the Saints, what's the injury situation? I still think that Dennis Allen is not that great of a coach, although right now Sean Payton is not that great of a coach for the Broncos. So, yeah, Dennis Allen outperforming him, of course, probably more talent defensively, as the Broncos could go down as one of the worst defenses in NFL history. So to go back to your main point, I still think this is a 2-team race. I get it, Atlanta at the skill positions with Bijan Robinson and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, but until that quarterback puts games together consistently, I'm still saying it's a 2-team race with New Orleans and, of course, the Bucs.
Couple of transaction moves that happened this week. The Atlanta Falcons traded on Tuesday for Van Jefferson from the Rams, a wide receiver, basically swapped draft picks with the Rams. It was but again, Jefferson's a 3rd or 4th receiver in an offense. Wasn't getting much run in LA, and Atlanta needs some help at wide receiver. And I'm going to give you a name that potentially the Falcons could be interested in down the road here if Ridder doesn't continue to at least play well, because they've been struggling mightily in the passing game. The Vikings are now 1-4. Justin Jefferson's out a month at least with a hamstring injury. Kirk Cousins is going to be a name to be aware of with the Atlanta Falcons if 3 or 4 weeks from now Desmond Ridder keeps struggling and the Falcons are still in the mix here a little bit. Don't be surprised if Arthur Smith and Arthur Blanks make a run at Kirk Cousins.
Well, it's certainly possible. They passed on a quarterback in the offseason where they could have made a run, so they decided to go with Ridder. And now if you'll fall by the wayside, or you think you're actually in it and their quarterback is going to get you over the top, but how much are you going to have to give up? I could actually see Cousins going to another team, and that would be the New York Jets. Jets, especially as Zach Wilson falters, although he has played somewhat well, but we'll see if that can definitely last. And going back to Jefferson, his father, Sean Jefferson,
Right.
the Atlanta Falcons. So a good story there for
And his dad's a wide receiver coach in the league too. I can't remember which team he's with, but he's a wide receiver coach in the league. So but yeah, Van Jefferson, who's a Florida Gator here in our part of the world, played at Florida, so has kind of been hasn't really progressed a whole lot in LA. Obviously, the emergence of Nakua in LA and Cooper Kupp back and Tutu Atwell kind of eliminated his reps out there. So, but again, Kirk Cousins is the name to be aware of. I said a month ago Kirk Cousins to the Jets, and people didn't want to believe me, but because I thought the Vikings would be out of it. Justin Jefferson, they're 1-4. He's out a month at least. That team's going to be, they're not re-signing Kirk Cousins. So he could be had for a second or third round draft pick. It's not going to cost them an arm and a leg. And if you're a contender, Kirk Cousins would be a guy to go get at the trade deadline.
Well, is Minnesota going to eat most of that salary?
Yes.
Still has a high salary. And of course, the Jets invested all that money in Aaron Rodgers. And of course, the big time story is they expect Rodgers, and it could happen. Rodgers comes back next year. A lot of people consider retirement, but the talk is that he still could come back. So I guess it depends on
last year Kirk Cousins contract. No more money after this year. So it's a rental. You're basically renting them for 8 or 9 weeks.
I know it's off subject, but there was a report out there for the Rays that they were actually interested in Shohei Ohtani for a rental, and they were willing to trade 3 top prospects, including Junior Caminero. I was surprised by that. I'm shocked by that. I couldn't believe that development, but
Peter, you have to listen to the Powers on Sports podcast. I told the whole audience that Ohtani for the best 3 prospects, make it happen.
They couldn't get it done.
You have to have somebody say yes. Right. But I told everybody they would be in the mix for Ohtani to offer him up 3 prospects at the trade deadline.
And going back to the rental thing, I mean, you're exactly right. If you're in it to win it, you go for it. And if somebody out there is willing to go and get a quarterback and trade draft capital and pay half of that salary, and the other team is willing to pay half of that salary, then you can make it happen. Now, who's a team out there right now besides the Jets and besides the Falcons that you could say might need a Kirk Cousins?
Here's what I would say.
Yeah. God
forbid something happened to Baker Mayfield in the next 3-4 weeks. Because remember, the trade deadline's, I think, Halloween and end of October. If God forbid something happened to Baker, I mean, I'm just being honest with you. If something happened to Baker Mayfield, you don't think the Bucs wouldn't make a phone call to Minnesota?
I think they make a call, but I think a lot of people would say, you know what? They have faith in Kyle Trask. It certainly seems like.
But you need another guy. You got to have 2 of them.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, though. You're going to have to.
The Bucs wouldn't have to pay. They'd have to pay about probably half at best of whatever's owed. Because remember, half the season would be over by then. The Bucs would only have to pay half of what they would not have to pay the full tab. I'm just telling you, they would make a phone call to Kirk Cousins if something happened to Baker Mayfield. The Bucs would be in that.
They may make a phone call, but I feel like once again, going back to the offseason, as we talked about it, you're paying off your credit card bills. So I don't see that. I see, again, knock on wood, hopefully Baker doesn't.
Yeah, I hope nothing happens. I'm just saying, though, the Bucs, if they're in it at the trade deadline, if something happened to Baker Mayfield, I can promise you they wouldn't just put all the marbles in Kyle Trask's hands.
I need you to stop saying that because you're gonna curse this.
I got you. Yeah. All right, so remember, we're the No Quarter Given podcast is part of the BuckPower.com podcast network. Go to BuckPower.com for all of your audio, video, statistical stuff. Paul Stewart will be in town. Remember, he's coming for the Tennessee Titan home game, Buck fans. We're gonna take him out to dinner. We're gonna meet up with him and TJ, and Peter Blake's gonna go have a buffet of wings, I'm sure, somewhere, and go to town. You're gonna get some barbecue sauce all over that BuckPower.com golf shirt that he's wearing with the sticky fingers. All right, so before we get to the montage of the Detroit Lions with Paul Stewart, you got a press pass for the game Sunday?
It's looking like it. I haven't got official word, but it's definitely looking like it as I'm a part of the JP Peterson show. So
Attaboy.
the only post game live edition of the Sports Web, including the JP Peterson show on the field, taking phone calls with sound effects like this. I love that.
You got the internet figured out? You got the laptop all working, all tuned up, ready to go?
Here's the thing. Here's the biggest challenge, ladies and gentlemen, about doing the show on the field. And this is so sad on my part. Back in the day, I could not find any plugs. I didn't know where the plugs were at. There had to be plugs on the field somewhere, and I finally found them. It's like finding gold. You're 49er and you found gold. That's how I feel. So now I got all the plugs. The internet is fine. Everything was working. I can go from 4 or 5 platforms at a time. It was the plug situation. I found the plug. I got the plug. I got the power, baby.
Speaking of a plug, if you're in the Tampa Bay area, every Monday night, Peter and JP are over at the patio. Monday night, previewing a little Monday Night Football from 5 to 7. I dropped by on Monday and had a fun little chat with JP and Peter on the air. So that was good. So how you guys liking the patio situation on Mondays?
Well, it may be changing to actually Fridays here. So Friday night from 5 to 7. That may be coming here in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how that works out. But love the Monday situation there. Love having a remote. You know me. Bring out the PA speakers, bring out all the gadgets, and bring out the fan mic and have fans on camera talking, about your Bucks, about the Rays, about the Lightning, and about other NFL teams. And, of course, the matchup there and the, Florida Gator bar there, of course, and also Bills Mafia bar, which we have Bills fans earlier on, and they're just crazy or ready to go through tables and wrestling. My kind of fans, too, by the way. Wrestling fans. I like that.
Because we're going to see the Buffalo Bills in a couple weeks on Thursday night up in Orchard Park.
Yeah. So maybe we should do something.
We might try to do something that Thursday night somewhere. All right, Buck fans, we're gonna go to Paul Stewart and his montage on the Detroit Lions. You're going to enjoy this montage on the historical rivalry with the Lions. Remember, Buck fans, from the old NFC Central days. One of the memories I remember Dave, this before your time, Peter Blake, Dave Logan with a clinching interception return in the Silverdome to clinch a division title back in the day. Obviously, the clashes with Barry Sanders. If you remember when Barry made John Lynch look like a 10-year-old when he juked him and went 80 yards at Tampa Stadium back in the day. I mean,
Barry Sanders was a guy that could lose 6 yards on one play and go 66 the next. And I'm telling you, kids, I've never seen this man run. To me, he's probably the greatest running back of all time. Just amazing to watch, what he did against the Bucks, especially versus the Bucks. And there were some years there where the Bucks went there and they shut down Barry Sanders. And I remember a year, I think it was 92 or 93, with Santana Dotson.
Yeah.
Rookie and taking a touchdown back. And at the time, people were saying, oh, maybe this is the next Dave Logan. He had a good rookie year. Was that 92?
Something like that. It was. I remember the defensive coordinator back then was Floyd Peters. Remember Big Floyd from Minnesota, from the Vikings?
Yes, I remember him. I remember Rusty Tillman.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, those are the hardware years with Hardy Nickerson being your guy.
Was that Sam Weish? Sam Weish is the coach?
Yes, Sam Weish, Floyd Peters, Thomas Everett, I think, was around. I'm from the Dallas Cowboys. I know my Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I know you do, Peter Blake. All right, Buck fans, let's get to Paul Stewart in the montage on the Detroit Lions. And on the other side, we will do a little preview of Creamsicle Sunday and the Detroit Lions coming to Raymond James Stadium. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, Buck fans, welcome back. No Quarter Given podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed Paul Stewart's excellent montage. He will have one for us every single week. Atlanta Falcons will be up next week because we have 2 straight home games here with the Falcons coming to town next week. And Peter Blake, it is Creamsicle Sunday. Yeah. Bucks getting a little respect. The game gets flexed from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock by Fox, which is a good thing. So we'll be in the 4 o'clock window this week. Give me your favorites. Give me a memory from Peter Blake's past of the Creamsicle jerseys as either a little kid or a young adult or as an older adult.
I mean, there's not a lot there, but I definitely remember what was it? The Sam Weiss years, his first year. What was it? 5-2. They got off
5-2, baby.
to a great start there. Of course, they end up falling back tremendously, so they would never. The orange pants. You remember
Yep.
the orange pants? I remember Ron Hall. I remember Vinny, and this goes back to 92, 93. Once again, I think it's the same game where you win a one that is so close where you have Ron Hall catching one of the final touchdowns there, and your defense has to stop the Lions from scoring at that point because you think they're going to score. And I think it was Perryman at the time. This is why you got to go to buckpower.com. Nearly scores, and the Bucks are able to stop him the last 10 seconds of the game. I remember that stuff because it was so tough to beat the Lions at the time because of Barry Sanders and Scott Mitchell and Rodney Peete and Andre Ware. I mean, they never could perform against any other team besides, it seemed like, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So
I remember I was home. I was living up in Alabama at the time, and I was home for the holidays. And I went to the wild card game. It was at 97 when they played the Lions in the wild card game with Tony Dungy.
yes, yes, sir.
I was at that wild card game when they beat the Lions.
Right.
Yeah.
But that
First
was,
time they'd been to the playoffs in forever.
yeah.
I think it was that quarterback was what, Trent?
Trent Dilfer's, it says, what is this?
I believe it was Trent. I believe Trent was the quarterback.
And was the quarterback. Mike Allstott was coming into his second year.
Warwick Dunn. Yep.
That was the year you switched over. That was
Yep.
the second year of Tony Dungy. You switched
Right.
over to the Pewter, and of course, Pewter.
It was Sapp and Brooks, and obviously that the defense was ascending to be an elite level defense, but it was the first time we got over the hump and back into the playoffs in so many years. And I remember I was in the building. It was it was Raymond James, I believe. It was the first or second year of Raymond James.
No, it was Houlihan Stadium.
Okay. Okay, Raymond James. Okay, we're not going to talk about Houlihan's.
Oh, no,
Raymond James.
No. Raymond James didn't open up until 1998 versus the Chicago Bears.
Okay. Then the last year of the old sombrero.
The big sombrero.
That's right. Okay.
Houlihan Stadium. I'm just trying to be there.
That's fine. Okay. But I was in the building that day for the playoff game. All right. Let's get to the matchup this week. We've got a heavyweight matchup. Nobody thought the Buccaneers would be 3-1. A lot of people thought Detroit would be. They're at 4-1 now, and an impressive victory over the weekend. They beat Carolina badly. Again, to me, this is another physical test for the Buccaneers. Offensive and defensive lines for Detroit are really good. The Bucs did not match up particularly well in the Philadelphia game. I think Philadelphia's is better than Detroit, so I think the Bucs are going to be a little more evenly matched. 2 weeks of rest for the Buccaneers, so I don't think physically they're not going to be fatigued. I think you're going to get some guys back. Kalijah Cansey, the offensive line is intact. I think you're going to get Diaby back. I think he's going to be part of the rotation as well. But can the Buccaneers hold up offensive and defensive lines with the Detroit Lions?
And it's going to come down to the blitz. Can the blitz get to Jared Goff? Because you remember last year, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's not great against the blitz. So if the Bucs can apply that pressure to him, then maybe you have the old Jared Goff come back and give you a couple interceptions. But he's definitely played out of his mind. You got some new weapons there. You got David Montgomery from the Chicago Bears, who certainly fits there, not the Bears. I guess the Bears didn't think he would fit. He's fit the Lions very well so far. And look, they're believing in their coach and Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
He's a hard-nosed attitude. He wants his team to be physical at the point of attack, as we talked about with this Bucs team, not only offensively on that offensive line, but also defensively, led by, of course, Hutchinson, the second-year defensive end out of Michigan.
They're going to try to impose their will physically, and Montgomery's been running the ball really well. We don't know the status of Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon St. Brown. Both didn't play last week against Carolina. We don't know what the status is, just like we don't know what the status is with Mike Evans. But I think the passing game for the Buccaneers this week can be where you can make some hay against Detroit. The secondary isn't great. Emmanuel Mosley, one of their DBs, blown ACL. He's done for the year. CJ Gardner's out he's out for them. So I think you can make some hay in the secondary against the Detroit Lions, especially if Evans is available. Again, I told you, we talked about Trey Palmer getting more involved in the offense. He didn't have a bunch of catches, but he played more snaps in the game against New Orleans. I think we're due to have a ball over the top. We haven't thrown a deep ball to him yet. I think that's probably going to be part of this game plan. And again, stay balanced. And Baker Mayfield, keep doing what you're doing offensively. And again, don't let them break your will by running the ball like the Eagles did in the second half. You got to contain that running game.
Yeah, you got to contain that running game, make them one-dimensional, of course, and that's what the Bucs' MO is defensively. Offensively, who's your favorite wide receiver besides Trey Palmer, Chris Godwin? Who's the guy who stepped up with the touchdown versus the Saints late to clinch? Because you've been talking about him, too, showing out. Who was that last Sunday?
Was that Tom? What did you tell me? Tompkins?
Evan Tompkins, right there. Your guy, you talked about him.
No, I want to see more Trey Palmer, but Tompkins has been a quality contributor, too.
Yeah,
give him credit.
He's got speed. He's quick. He's very deceptive, and he's catching the ball. And that's what it comes down to.
Yes.
Good job when you're catching the ball consistently. Baker's going to have that confidence to go to him, and even without Evans, they're able to put it together. So that wide receiving room right now looking pretty good, Jason Powers, my tag team partner of the world.
And you're getting some contribution out of even a guy like Raheem Jarrett. He caught 2 or 3 balls the other day. Again, we all thought this young receiver core from 3, 4, and 5 would be young, and they're playing well. I give them all the credit. They don't have to be the star. They just have to be a compliment. Catch the balls that are thrown to you on those 3rd and 4s kind of deal. And let's get Cade Otton more involved in the game too. I want to see more Cade Otton. I think you're going to see Rachaad White get some more throws out of the backfield. So again, I think I like where this offense is going. And again, if Mike Evans plays, that will be such a key factor because again, the coverage is still going to roll to Mike Evans. Say what you want. The coverage is still going to roll to Mike Evans.
And those tricky Bucs, all the trickeration that you saw last Sunday, does that carry over against the Lions? So you had Chris Godwin throw a pass, and it looked like it was open. The defender wasn't looking, turned his head back, of course, didn't threw in double coverage there. But look at the player was open at the time, I believe it was Trey Palmer.
Right.
And he also had an end around to Tompkins there, which was
nice.
Again,
modern football is all these misdirection things, speed sweeps, all that kind of stuff. And again, with another 2 weeks of practice time and all that stuff to philosophically get your stuff in order, I think you're going to see a wide open Buccaneer offense this Sunday. Again, I also like the NFL giving the Bucs some respect here. You're starting to hear a little more chatter about the Buccaneers league wide. The game gets flexed. I like that. Again, I think Fox realizes the Buccaneers are better and they're going to be a good team. Their over-under was 6 this year, win total. I got a piece of that, by the way, over 6.
Over. There you go. Good stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to cash that check hopefully pretty quick. So, all right, Peter Blake, give me a prediction here. Buccaneers, 4 o'clock, Creamsicles. The NFC Central Revival is back. Give me a prediction. Raymond James Stadium, Sunday afternoon.
I like the Bucs 28-24 over the Lions.
Okay, I'm going 27-21 Bucs. The Bucs are about a 3.5-point underdog too, by the way. So I like that at home too. Good teams, home underdogs. I like that. Remember, Buccaneer fans, check out buckpower.com. If you're locally in the Tampa area, check out the 98 Rock for the Bucs broadcast. TJ, Gene, and Dave Moore on the call. And then you can go to the Bucs app if you're not in the Tampa Bay area, or on Sirius XM to find the Buccaneers broadcast if you're not in the Tampa Bay area to find the Buccaneer broadcast on Sunday. Well, Peter Blake, enjoy the press box, 3-plate minimum, okay? It's an late afternoon. And by the way, set your alarm. Don't be rolling in at 3:30. Get there by 2:30. Get there on time, bro. Get set up. Eat your 3 plates. Go to town with JP after the game, man.
Absolutely sounds good, and I expect a phone call to kind of give your thoughts whether the Bucs win or lose. Live at Raymond James Stadium, my friend, on the Sports Web.
I'm waiting for that press pass so I can be your wire holder. I'll hold the cables. Give me a press pass, bro.
I need that. I'm trying to work on that. I need a camera guy. We need to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and say, hey, this is my tag team partner in the world. He's going to be able to help me with the camera. He can set up, hold the wires, and also get on camera because we do the no quarter given podcast here on the buckpower.com podcast network.
All right, Buck fans, we'll see you next time. Atlanta Falcons in week 7 coming up. But let's get a W here with the Detroit Lions, and let's get into sole possession of first place in the NFC South. We'll see you next time, Buck fans, on the No Quarter Given podcast.
hey, Tampa Bay.